What's up, guys? Monster 4-0 sweep of the board yesterday. I love that. Huge day. Some of the wins, some of them were not even close. The Cincinnati Reds was probably the closest one, and they were able to hold on to that win at the end there. Denver Nuggets, blowout win. Milwaukee Brewers, blowout win. The White Sox, if you went full game or first 5 inning, both of those won with a decent amount of ease as well. Gotta love it. I'm going to be a little bit more selective today. In the NHL, yet again, I'm not going to have anything in the NHL. First game up, these are both at night, 7 p.m. Eastern. New York Rangers up 3-0 in the series at Carolina. Carolina up from minus 140 on the money line to minus 145. 50% of the tickets, it looks like, just evenly split 50-50. 63% of the cash, though, on Carolina. So Carolina attracting the cash again. Kind of looks sort of like a pros versus Joes situation, kind of like this whole series has been. And the Joes have been right in the series so far, at least on the scoreboard. Rangers, I believe, have won every game in the series by 1 goal, if I'm not mistaken. And I've been saying it since the start of the series. The results have been a bit misleading, man, because I think the Hurricanes have actually outshot the Rangers really dramatically in the series. In the last game, Hurricanes completely dominated the other home game. It was they had 47 shots to the Rangers 25, and it's not like they were just doing that because they were getting killed in the game. The game was just close the whole time. It was never Carolina never trailed by more than 1. They had 31 hits to the Rangers 19s. They were more physical, and they had 61% of the faceoffs, and they still wound up losing the game in overtime. So we've had 2 overtime losses in the last 2 games where Carolina was the team that outshot the Rangers. They outshot them 57-39 in game 2. The hits were slightly in favor of the Rangers. Carolina won the faceoff percentage in that one. Shesterkin is just playing out of his mind, man. And Carolina in game 1 also outshot the Rangers, and the hits were even, and they outface off them. So Carolina has outshot them and outface off them in every game, and they've outshot the Rangers by a lot, and it was even more dramatic in that home game. So I would only lean to Carolina here, man. I mean, this is it right here. They're on the brink of elimination. They're going to have to bring their best game. But, I mean, it seems like it hasn't even mattered, really. They have not played poorly in the series at all, and it's just things have just not fallen their way, and Shesterkin is just playing completely out of his mind, and that's kind of been the difference in every game in the series, really. And what else can you say? Carolina's putting all these shots on net and outplaying the Rangers in like all these other phases and just still not winning. Getting a cheap price on Carolina this time because the series is now 3-0. And, you know, I always say in hockey, when these teams are down 3-0 and they're at home, they sort of tend to bring an effort, which we saw in round 1 of these series as well. Teams in this spot at home down 0-3, I believe, went 2-1 in the first round. Not a huge sample size to deal with, but yeah, obviously you're going to get a huge effort out of Carolina, and it's possible that the Rangers at some point, like maybe they get a little bit complacent, and the fact that they're getting outplayed by Carolina in the series and they're on the road here, finally maybe that'll actually catch up to them and maybe actually wind up in a result that actually corresponds to what the statistics actually are in the game. So I lean to Carolina in that one. Dallas, Colorado is the night game tonight. This is a 1-1 series. And after Dallas won game 2 at home, Colorado took game 1 in Dallas. Colorado back in Colorado now. We're going into elevation. Colorado only a minus 135 favorite, up from minus 133, which really the odds makers have these teams priced like they're almost even with really they have it. Well, I guess they have it priced as Colorado being the very slightly better team, which I do agree with. I do think Colorado's the better team. That's the way I lean here, just in the zigzag really of Colorado playing well in game 1, winning the game, which was a huge comeback for Colorado. They had to come back from down 3-0, furious comeback, and I think they won in overtime, and maybe they were just out of gas by the end of game 2, which game 2 also a close game. I think that game was tied pretty late in the game. Dallas, I think their final goal in that game might have been an empty netter. So this series, yeah, these 2 games have been close so far. We return to Colorado now. I think Colorado's got a little bit of the edge at home, maybe with that elevation playing a little bit of a factor. 64% of the tickets on them, 92% of the cash. Colorado, I mean, they also might be playing with a chip on their shoulder just because they got eliminated in the first round of the playoffs last year as the number one seed in the Western Conference, I think, against Seattle there. So you might say, well, maybe that chip is gone after they won their first round this season easily, but I don't know. Either way, I think Colorado is actually the better team. The public is slightly on Colorado here, but the cash is way more on Colorado here, and the line has moved up on them a little bit. I think public perception kind of likes Dallas in some ways here because they're the team that scores more, and they probably actually have the better goalie. The teams that are left in the Western Conference, really their goalies are not that good. Unfortunately, Ottinger on Dallas is probably the best of the remaining four. The better goalies that are remaining in the playoffs are pretty much all the Eastern Conference goalies at this point. But I still think Colorado overall, the better team, and that is the way that I would lean in that game. We'll move over to NBA where I actually have a play. We have an afternoon game, and that is not where I'm going to have a play. Afternoon game, we have Thunder at Dallas. Dallas won game 2 and tied the series up 1-1. I think won fairly easily in game 2. So I can see arguments for the zigzag here, or the, I guess, zigzag zig. And this might zig back to the side of the Thunder this time. The Mavs at home are down from a 3-point favorite to a 2.5-point favorite, and they are public, which it surprises me how public the Mavs have seemed in the series so far. Where you think the Thunder, I mean, they're the 1 seed. They are the team that, I mean, they're the team that people think are one of the best teams in the Western Conference, which really they are. But I guess it's the Luka factor, man. Luka and Kyrie, the Mavs still have like the somewhat bigger names, so I guess that's why the public is coming in on them. And I guess for this game, recency bias, because the Mavs looked good in game 2. 66% of the tickets on the Mavs, only 61% of the cash. So we see public on the Mavericks, less of the cash, and we see the line ticking down on them a little bit to 2.5. So the market read here and sort of the zigzag theory would have you believe that would mean the Thunder would be the correct side in this one. Taking the points with the Thunder, they're going to have the adjustments to make. They just lost at home. They can go out on the road and make adjustments to turn this thing around, flip it back around, and play well in this game. So that, I agree with that. I mean, that is the way I would lean here. I don't think it's a very strong lean at all, because I do also think the Mavs still have an okay shot to win this series, except for the fact that Luka is not playing at 100%, man. It is definitely affecting his shooting. So that is a problem. Other than that, like, I like the fact that the Mavs have more experience on their side. The Thunder still very green. And as it gets deeper into the playoffs, they're going to be facing like a bigger and bigger stage that they are not totally familiar with. So we'll see what happens there. Celtics, Cavs. If you know me and you follow this channel, you know what I'm doing, man. This is the night game. Well, I should actually talk about Thunder Mavs total. I usually throw in a little bit about the total. That's down from 219 to 218. 219 and a half, actually, down to 218 juice to the under. So we do see money coming in on the under, even though I see 50% of the tickets split and 58% of the cash on the over. So maybe the cash coming back on the, I don't know, because the lines move down, so it seems like the more significant money is on the under there. But that is a pretty high total. And in game 3, when you have a series that's just chugging along, I tend to not get involved in those. I like playing unders in game 1 and in game 5 when it's a tied series, game 7, of course, and that's pretty much about it. And sometimes overs in game 2, but that's about it. Celtics, Cavs, though. Like I was saying, you know what I'm going to do, man. You know what I have on the Celtics Cavs. Celtics are up from 8 to 8.5 with juice. They are public with 62% of the tickets, somewhat public, but they also have 78% of the cash and the line moving up on them. So the more of the cash than the tickets are coming in on the Celtics. This looks like a zigzag type of spot to me as well. Celtics won game 1 in a total blowout, and then I think they just got complacent in game 2. Cavs shot more than 50% from three-point range, I think, which is very un-Cavs. Like, they're not a very good offensive team, not a very good shooting team. They really don't have many scoring options. I mean, Donovan Mitchell is one of the best players in the league, but beyond that, really they don't have much scoring depth. I mean, Garland could score decently, but other than that, not a whole lot going on there. And I don't know what Jarrett Allen's situation is. I think he has yet to play in the series. So he'd be a big man who can come in and maybe kind of have some sort of impact. But I see this as very similar to the first series, man, for the Celtics. Because what happened in the Heat series? Celtics were almost at the same number as well in that series as far as the spreads were concerned. Celtics double-digit home favorites of almost the same amount, a little bit more in the Heat series. And then similar lines on the road, too. What happened in that series? Celtics won game one in a total blowout, which I was in attendance at, both game ones for the Celtics, both series. Then I think they just took their foot off the gas and just didn't pay attention in game two and got caught. And they faced a team that got hot from three-point range while the Celtics weren't hitting their threes in that particular game. And that's the recipe for the Celtics losing a game, but it doesn't happen that often, man. Celtics do rely too heavily on the three, but they're usually hitting enough of them that they wind up winning by margin. And what happened in that Heat series after the Celtics got, kind of punched in the mouth and had that bad game two, didn't show up for game two. They readjusted, went out on the road, forget about what's going on at home. They went out, focused on basketball, played a good game, and absolutely annihilated the Heat, and they didn't look back and wound up with the gentleman's sweep. We'll just gentlemanly let you win game two, and then we will sweep the rest of the games against you. I think this is going to be some of the same here with the Celtics. Celtics obviously are the better team. I think they're going to come in and refocus after that loss. They've played better in these road playoff games recently. I think they've won 4 road playoff games in a row, going back to that Miami series last year. And they may have covered actually the first of those. I don't remember if they covered the first game against Miami at Miami or not, because they did lose that game. They won the other 2. So they've won and covered at least 4 straight playoff road games now. Celtics tend to have more focus when they go out on the road, and it seems to alleviate some of their distractions. And the fact that, we're on the road now, like we can't screw up. We got to pay attention here. So the Celtics, I like this one. I like them to come in and play a much better game here and be able to take care of the Cavs and win this by margin. And this one's similar to what happened in the Heat series. Celtics, they also have more depth. Like, they're obviously the way better scoring team, and their scoring, they can really spread it around. I mean, we've seen Tatum basically hasn't been great for a while now. You have to go back into the middle of that Heat series to find a great Tatum game. He's been okay for multiple games in a row now. And mostly it hasn't even mattered. The Celtics have still been overcoming that. Game one of the series, like I said, I think they had 7 players scoring in double digits. I mean, the Celtics have a lot of scoring depth, a lot of depth, even without Porzingis. Their big men that have been filling in have been pretty decent, really. Celtics run pretty deep into their bench, so I think that's good as well. Cavs, really, if the Celtics are shooting the way that they usually do and shooting decently, the Cavs are going to have real difficulty keeping up with them, just like in game one. I actually took this game at 7 as soon as the line came out, so I got on that key number of 7 there, which is the 3-possession game, 3-possession number there. But I think you can lay 8, and you'll be fine as well on this game. I'm fine with laying the 8 on this. I don't really think that it's gonna matter. I see this similarly to the other one. I like the Celtics to cover that. Cavs, the total is down from 213 to 211 with 51% of the tickets on the over, but 62% of the cash on the over. So again, we see the total is moved down, but pregame is saying more of the cash is actually on the over. I'm not sure that I buy that. I would not really want to be on either over necessarily in these games. I don't know. I don't really have a read on the totals, but it looks like the totals, they've dropped in the markets. That tends to be the best indicator on these totals. And then we'll move over to Major League Baseball, where I do have a few leans to unders, including in the game that I'm going to play. The game that I'm going to play, I still don't know if I want to play the under or if I want to play a side in it. I'm leaning to the side because the total is just so low. But I will say, just quickly, I lean to the under in Atlanta and the Mets. And neither team used their bullpen a whole lot in that one. That's down from 8 juice to the over, down to 7.5 juice to the under. So we see heavy money coming in on the under there. 52% of the tickets on the under, but 98% of the cash. I agree with it, but 7.5. You can find a 7.5 at -110. I wouldn't mind that necessarily. That's Max Fried, who, of course, he has been seen a lot by the Mets. but his numbers are good against the Mets. I think like a 240 something batting average, over 100 something at bats against him or something like that. So they've seen him a lot, but he's done well against them. And the Mets have Christian Scott, who made his major league debut in his previous game. I think he's like a decent prospect. I think I came in and played on that game. He pitched pretty well in the game. He had 6 strikeouts, 1 walk, but I think it was against a bad Tampa offense too. So what is he going to do against this Atlanta heavy hitting offense? We don't really know, but I do lean to the under in that one. The Mets don't have a good offense either, so I expect the Mets offense to kind of struggle in that one. And you could kind of see the money coming in on the Atlanta side in that one too, but that is the way that I would look in that one. And let's see. I like the under in Houston, Detroit as well. That's sitting at 7.5 juice to the under, although we see 66% of the tickets and 96% of the cash on the over in that one, which doesn't totally make sense to me there. And again, that's a pretty low total there, but I do kind of lean that way. That's Tariq Skubal pitching for Detroit. I think Detroit used more of their bullpen yesterday, though. They used 4 relievers. That would give me a little hesitation on the under if their bullpen is kind of overworked. But Skubal could go deep into this game. I mean, he's been Detroit's ace, basically. Even though he's a young guy, he's really been pitching well. And I think in some limited playing time, his numbers against Houston are fine as well. Christian Javier is pitching for Detroit. Javier, he's coming off the DL, so that is a situation where I actually kind of like where a guy's coming off the disabled list, because that means that they're ready and they might be getting undervalued in the market a little bit because, they have to work their way back from injury. It's like, yeah, but that's what they were doing with like pitching in the minors or whatever and doing their rehab, whatever. Like if they're starting in a Major League Baseball game, the team is saying that they're ready. And of course, I mean, he's no stranger to pitching in the majors. He's been around for a while now, and his numbers are decent against Detroit too, I think. So lean to the under in that one. And I also lean to the San Diego Padres, which I don't know if I can quite bring myself to jump on Matt Waldron again. It's a really risky play to do that because he's a knuckleballer. So he can come in and pitch well in one game and just suck in another game. He is playing in Petco, though, so it's a decent pitcher's park. So for the knuckleball, maybe that'll help him keep it in the yard. But I think he's already allowed 3 home runs in Petco this year and has an ERA over 7 there, even though he also has a 13-2 strikeout walk ratio there. And he did face at least one good offense there in Toronto. So I think he's faced pretty good offenses there. So I don't know, but I know that Waldron has fooled the Dodgers hitters in the past. It's not a huge sample size, but Waldron has like a 100 opponent batting average pitching against the Dodgers. So this was almost a play for me. And James Paxton, I think, continues to be overvalued, overrated. His whip is almost the same as Waldron's. They're both like in the 1.5s, which is a terrible whip. It's just that Waldron's ERA is like kind of matches his whip, his ERA being in the 5s. So, he's not very good. Yeah, correct. But Paxton, his ERA sitting in the 3s is just misleading because he's allowed way too many base runners. He's really getting up there in age. I just don't think he's that good. And in his history, the San Diego Padres hitters have shelled Paxton. Like they hit over 300 against him, and I think a pretty high OPS too. So his numbers against San Diego's hitters, very bad, a lot worse than Waldron's are against the Dodgers hitters. So I actually like San Diego in that one. And we see market movement on that coming in, dropping LA down from -147 to -138 as a pretty public road favorite with some reverse line movement against them there. 90% of the tickets, although I see 91% of the cash. I think what you can see, though, from the line moving down on Detroit is that there is line movement. That means there's cash coming in on the Padres side there, probably for the reasons that I just stated. So I do like that one. I like the Padres side in that one. I just don't know if I can quite throw my money on Matt Waldron because it's so risky with the one knuckleballer who's still in the majors, and he's not as good as Tim Wakefield, all right? But Paxton has just sucked so bad, and I just think he continues to be overvalued. You can find places to go against him, and in a spot like this where they're laying a money line price on the road, I mean, you could think about playing against Paxton in a spot like that. Both teams used I think San Diego actually used a couple more of their better relievers than LA did yesterday, even though they both only used like 2 relievers. LA used like Grove in a relief role, and he kind of sucks. He's been in and out of the rotation. I think he lost the game yesterday, actually. San Diego used a couple of their better relievers, I think, so we'll see what happens there. And I do also like the under in Cincinnati, San Francisco. with Lodolo pitching. He's had good numbers so far this year, although I don't know if his numbers are quite as good in his history against San Francisco. I could look. I actually forget. But generally, I like Lodolo. I mean, he's got a low whip. Oh, San Francisco's never faced him before. So this is a spot where you have both pitchers have never been seen before by the opposing hitters. You have Mason Black on the other side. He's kind of the reason I can't do it, though, because he made his major league debut, and I was on the under in that one, and I escaped. I think it did cash, or maybe was that the one that pushed, or did it cash? I think it cashed, barely. But Black had a really bad outing. He's not like one of the best prospects out there, so that that concerns me a little bit with Mason Black there, but I do like the under in that one. It's dropped from 8 juice to the under down to 7.5 juice to the over, so it's very slightly, but I see 71% of the tickets and 80% of the cash on the over in that one, which is interesting. I don't know why that would be the case. Like with Lodolo, I think you have a guy who's been pitching legitimately good this year, and San Francisco has never seen him before. Mason Black struggled in his first outing, but Cincinnati hasn't seen him before either, so I lean to Cincinnati as well, and we do see market movement pushing them up on the money line there, but I'm not sure I want to get involved on that either, just because they're unfamiliar with Black. They haven't seen him before, and it's possible Black bounces back from a bad debut, or maybe he was nervous or whatever. I don't know if he's that great, really, as a prospect, but San Francisco also was in a horrible spot yesterday, which is why I played against them in that return home spot. Now, after you lose that first home game, if you didn't play well, you tend to play better in game 2. So situationally, from a scheduling perspective, there are some reasons to potentially like San Francisco there, although I don't. I lean to Cincinnati and the under in that one. I'm not going to play either one there just because of the matchup. I think favors Cincinnati a little bit more with Lodolo, who's the more proven pitcher, and he's been good this year, and San Francisco has not faced him. All that now all roads lead to the one game I'm actually on. What game am I on? I got to do it, man, because he might be the most highly touted prospect in Major League Baseball. Pittsburgh's Paul Skeens, is that how you pronounce it? Skeens, the guy with the stash, man. I love the stash. I'm just going to do it, even though it's against Justin Steele, and Steele has been good. He finally he was decent in his first couple seasons, I think, but last year he finally put together a really good season. But I have some hesitation with Steele, though, which is why I'm going to play. I think I'm going to play the side on this one. I'm going to play Pittsburgh on this one. I like the under, but it's gone down from 7.5 juice to the under all the way down to 6.5 juice to the over. So I think you can find under 7. So I do lean that way too, but that's a pretty low total. I do like the under 7. 66% of the tickets and 80% of the cash on the under. So the money is coming in on the under. As you can see, the total's gone down and more of the cash according to these numbers. Also on the under. So I do like the under, but I actually think maybe I like the Pittsburgh side a little bit more, even though we see market movement against it. The Cubs have gone up from -105 to -107. So they're a road favorite here, and I'm just not sure that I completely agree with that. I think there might be some value on the Pittsburgh side, getting them as a small, home underdog, basically here. 59% of the tickets are on the Cubs, but 73% of the cash on the Cubs, though. So that gives you a little bit of hesitation, because I do think we see some money coming in on the Cubs, driving the number up, and they have the cash discrepancy. But there are a few things that I hesitate with about Steele, even though I made some money playing games where he was starting last year, and I liked doing it. I was like, man, Justin Steele having a good season. He's pretty good, man. He is, but I think it's reached a point where you're looking at his numbers, and I think his numbers, at least this season, are misleading so far. He's got a .96 ERA, .86 whip so far, but it's in 2 starts. One of them was against San Diego, who their offense I don't think is – well, I mean, their offense is okay, I guess, but and then Texas, who has a good offense, but they've been struggling a little bit. He did pitch well in those starts, and he had an 8.2 strikeout walk ratio, but in 9 1/3, not a really high strikeout number for 9 1/3, although, yes, it's a small sample size. 6 hits allowed, that's pretty good. 2 walks, a little bit high. But if you look at those 2 starts, man, I don't know if they're easing him in or what's going on here. He pitched in March against Texas and only went 4 2/3, even though he was pitching well and only threw 67 pitches. They took him out, so I don't know what's going on with that. Then he just came back against San Diego in his most recent start, so I guess he was injured. He came back, and he pitched decently again, but it seems like they're working him back again, where he only threw 68 pitches. So in each start, he only went 4 2/3. So I don't think we're seeing like a full. I don't think we're seeing like a 100% steal right now. So I think there's no telling if they're going to let him actually go, like how deep they're actually going to let him go in this game. So I think that's a question mark for Steele today. And maybe we're even going to see a bit of regression out of Steele from last season, because he is a guy that I think he relies too heavily on just throwing fastballs. He has a couple different really he has like 2 fastballs that he claims that he like throws them out of like, I don't know, like gets different movement on the same fastball so that really he has 6 pitches instead of 2. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it worked last year fine. His numbers against Pittsburgh really are what kind of make me want to play Pittsburgh here, though, because Pittsburgh has seen him a decent amount, and they've done okay against him. 18 for 65, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 19-5 strikeout walk ratio. It's a pretty good strikeout walk ratio, but it's still a 277 batting average and 744 OPS. So it's not like Steele has been unhittable to these Pirates hitters. They've hit him all right. Those numbers are decent for the Pirates offense there, even though it's a struggling offense. They've seen Steele before. I think they know how to handle him, and they've handled him decently. Pittsburgh, I think, is also in a decent bounce back spot here. I mean, since they beat the Rockies, well, actually, they beat the Rockies and they beat the Angels. They've lost 3 games in a row at home. Lost to the Cubs yesterday. It was kind of bad, but the game, I think the score was actually misleading because Pittsburgh was winning 2-1 in the first inning, and then it was still only a 3-2 Cubs lead into the 7th inning, and Pittsburgh unraveled and gave up 4 runs in the 7th, although, yes, the Cubs did dramatically out-hit them 14-7. So really, yeah, kind of a blowout win there for the Pirates. Pirates did use 3 relievers to the Cubs 2, so that gives you a little bit of hesitation on this play as well. Does that mean you want to play first 5 inning on this one? I don't know, because I think if Steele gets knocked out of the game early, I think there is kind of an edge playing a full game here, where that means the Cubs are going to have to dip into their bullpen. Although they saved much of their pen yesterday by using Brown in relief of Assad for 3 2/3. So really they only used Alzolay, but he's one of their better pitchers, and he probably won't be available today. Pirates, I mean, Stratton came in and got rocked, and they used Fleming and Contreras. So they did use some of their better relievers. So I think the Cubs are in a little bit of the better bullpen spot there. So that worries me a little bit. But I think if Steele gets knocked out of the game early, the Cubs having to dip into their bullpen earlier, I think, is maybe a problem. I'm going to go with Paul Skeens here, man. I mean, he's one of the most highly rated prospects maybe that I've ever seen. And all this being said, maybe he's going to be in line for a huge letdown. I don't know. But the public, I don't think, really knows who he is. They're not really on him here. The public was mostly coming in on the Cubs, even though, like I said, it seems like more of the money is coming in on the Cubs than the tickets. But Paul Skeens, man, I mean, you look at what the scouting reports are on this guy. He's had like pretty dominant minor league numbers. He's been dominating strikeout wise, not allowing a lot of hits at all. Low ERA, low WHIP. He's just been dominating. He was one of the best pitchers in college at LSU, I believe, when he got drafted out. He's coming into the majors now, and the way that he's pitched in the minors seems like he pitches with a lot of confidence. So I don't think he's going to be thrown off by the nerves here. And he is an intimidating presence on the mound. And as I always talk about, these highly touted prospects that really, really actually have good stuff, they tend to have an advantage early on in the majors because these hitters don't know what to expect because they haven't seen him before. I think he throws in almost kind of like a bit of a lower arm slot, which can be more difficult for hitters too, although I think he is indeed a righty. He throws over 100 miles an hour on his fastball, man, which I don't know if you can keep that up in a full game when you're starting, but he's got a big frame, and he uses that to his advantage, I think, getting the power behind these pitches. He's 6'6", 235 pounds with the stash. So he's not – when you're a hitter, I don't think he's the guy you want to see on the mound, man. He's, just a towering presence, coming in and just throwing extremely high heat at you. I believe he also has 5 pitches. He's got the 4-seam and a 2-seam fastball that I think is not quite as fast, but I guess has some movement on it. He's got a slider that's one of his other better pitches that I guess has some huge movement on it. It is a pitch that can fool hitters as well. He's got a changeup that I think it seems like he still needs to develop a little bit more, but I guess he is starting to throw it more in the minors and get some decent movement on that thing too. And I don't even remember what his other pitch is, but whatever. So he does have 4 to 5 pitches there that he can come in and throws very, very hard. So I like Paul Skeens, man. Maybe it's just that I just love seeing the stash, man. Maybe I'm just enamored by the stash. I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna do it, and I'm just gonna take the Pittsburgh Pirates here for my only play here. Steele, like I said, he's very familiar to these Pirates hitters at this point, and they've actually had good numbers off him. The best you can do right now, I think, is minus 104 on the Pirates. If you wanted to play them first 5 inning, you could do that too, but you're laying minus 115, so you're laying a little bit more of a price. They're actually more of a favorite on the first 5 inning line there. You could do what I did yesterday, what I wound up doing yesterday, and lay a half run on the run line in the first inning as well if you really wanted to. But either first 5 inning or full game, I don't think I mind either play there. You get a little bit cheaper on full game, but you just got to hope that Skeens pitches like 6 innings in his debut or something, keeps the Cubs down, and then carries the lead, and that their bullpen hangs on to it, I think is what you're going to need there. It's not like Pittsburgh's bullpen is totally burned out after yesterday, though. Like, neither team really used their bullpen that heavily yesterday. So I think that's okay, even though the Cubs really are the better overall team. The way that this sets up, I like Skeens, and that's what we're going to do in this one. And I think that's going to do it for me, man. I don't know if there's anything else to really talk about there. So the 2 plays that I have today, being a bit more selective here, Boston Celtics, I would say, is absolutely the strongest play of the day. I got them minus 7. I don't mind the minus 8 at all. And then Pittsburgh Pirates minus 104. Let's get it. Peace.